Before you throw away a dying plant, wait 48 hours. Because what you're about to see has saved plants that looked completely finished. Yellow leaves. Drooping stems. No new growth. Most people call it dead. Soil scientists call it nutrient starvation. And the cure may already be sitting in your kitchen. Today you'll see 5 liquid fertilizers that cost almost nothing, work shockingly fast, and one of them has been used by farmers for generations because of what it does to weak plants. What happens next surprises most gardeners. Drop a handful of dry onion skins into a jar of water and leave it alone for 2 days. That's it. No blender. No compost pile. No expensive fertilizer. By the second day, the water turns a deep amber color. And that's when the transformation begins. Pour it around a struggling tomato plant and watch closely. The leaves stop fading. New growth appears darker. Stems become stronger. And within days, plants that looked ready for the compost pile start growing again. Most people assume the onion skins are garbage. But hidden inside them are the exact nutrients many garden plants run out of first. And once those nutrients hit the roots, the plant doesn't have to wait. It can start recovering immediately. But onion peel tea isn't the fastest fertilizer on this list. The next one works so quickly that some gardeners think they used too much. Most people pour this down the drain without thinking twice. That may be the biggest gardening mistake in their kitchen. The cloudy water left behind after rinsing rice looks useless. But after a few days, it becomes something completely different. Something alive. Leave that water in a covered jar at room temperature and a silent transformation begins. Beneficial microbes multiply by the millions. And those microbes do something no fertilizer can do alone. They wake up the soil. Within days, compacted soil becomes looser. Roots spread farther. Plants absorb nutrients more efficiently, and growth that seemed stalled suddenly starts moving again. Gardeners often focus on feeding the plant. The smartest gardeners focus on feeding the soil first. Because when the soil comes alive, the plant follows. Scientists have spent decades studying beneficial microbes and their effect on depleted soil. What they discovered was simple. Healthy soil isn't just dirt. It's an ecosystem. And fermented rice water helps rebuild that ecosystem for almost no cost. But as impressive as rice water is, the next fertilizer may be even more surprising, because it comes from something most people throw away every single morning. This is where most gardeners finally understand why fermented rice water works. It doesn't feed the plant. It feeds the army beneath it. The moment fermented rice water touches the soil, millions of beneficial microbes wake up and begin multiplying. And what happens next can completely change the way a garden grows. Roots spread farther. Nutrients become easier to absorb. Plants that seemed stuck suddenly begin producing new growth again. It's like turning a struggling garden into a thriving ecosystem. Think of it this way. Giving a plant fertilizer is like giving someone a meal. Building healthy soil is like giving them a fully stocked kitchen. One solves today's problem. The other keeps solving problems for months. But there is one mistake that ruins everything. And almost every first-time gardener makes it. They use the rice water too early. Fresh rice water has some value. But the real power appears after fermentation. 3 to 5 days later, the liquid develops a faint sour smell. That's the sign the beneficial microbes have arrived. Skip that step and most of the results disappear. One more rule matters. Always dilute the fermented liquid before using it. Too much can overwhelm the soil. The right amount creates the perfect environment for roots to thrive. And while rice water builds the underground support system, the next fertilizer does something completely different. It delivers nutrients so quickly that struggling plants often respond within days. Rice water rebuilds the soil. But what if the plant doesn't have weeks to wait? What if the leaves are yellow right now? What if growth has already stopped? That's where this next fertilizer becomes incredibly powerful. The secret is hiding in something most households throw away every single week. Vegetable scraps. A soft tomato. A wilted lettuce leaf. An overripe cucumber forgotten in the back of the refrigerator. Most people see garbage. Gardeners see emergency plant food. When these scraps are soaked and broken down in water, they release nutrients that plants can absorb almost immediately. And the nutrient struggling plants need most often is nitrogen. Without enough nitrogen, leaves turn pale. Growth slows. Stems weaken. The plant begins running out of energy. But once nitrogen becomes available again, something remarkable happens. New leaves emerge greener. Growth accelerates. The plant begins rebuilding itself. Think of it like charging a nearly dead battery. The plant already knows how to grow. It simply ran out of fuel. This liquid fertilizer gives it that fuel back. And while vegetable scrap digestate is one of the fastest nitrogen sources a gardener can make at home, the next ingredient on this list works in a completely different way. Instead of feeding the plant or the soil, it helps unlock nutrients that may already be trapped underground. This may be the fastest fertilizer on the entire list. In as little as 4 days, struggling plants can begin showing signs of recovery. Leaves that looked pale and exhausted start turning green again. New shoots appear where growth had completely stopped. And the surprising part? The fertilizer comes from vegetables most people throw away. An overripe tomato. A soft pepper. Wilted spinach. Old cucumbers forgotten in the refrigerator. What looks like kitchen waste is actually stored plant nutrition. When these scraps are soaked and allowed to ferment, the nutrients locked inside begin moving into the liquid. The result is a powerful homemade fertilizer that plants can access almost immediately. Gardeners often spend money searching for a quick fix. Meanwhile, the ingredients for one may already be sitting in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator. After dilution, the liquid is applied directly around the base of the plant. And that's when the transformation begins. Greener leaves. Stronger growth. New shoots. More energy. The plant isn't being rescued. It's being refueled, but even this method has a limitation. It can only provide nutrients that are already inside the scraps. The next fertilizer works differently. Instead of adding nutrients, it helps unlock nutrients that may already be trapped in your soil right now. The results can be surprisingly fast. A plant that looked finished at the start of the week can be producing new flowers by the weekend. Leaves deepen in color. Stems become stronger. Growth returns. But this is also where many gardeners make a costly mistake. Excited by the results, they use too much. Or worse, they spray it directly onto the leaves. That mistake can undo everything. This fertilizer belongs in the soil, not on the foliage. Used correctly, it feeds the roots. Used incorrectly, it can damage them. And here's something most gardeners never realize. The nutrients needed to grow healthy vegetables are already passing through their kitchen every single day. The problem isn't a lack of nutrients. The problem is where those nutrients end up. Most are sent to the trash instead of back into the soil. But even the best nitrogen fertilizer has a limitation. A struggling plant is rarely missing just one thing. It may be short on nitrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and trace minerals all at the same time. That's why the next fertilizer may be the most powerful one on this list. Because it doesn't target a single deficiency, it targets almost all of them at once. Imagine taking several of the most effective kitchen fertilizers and combining them into one full-spectrum plant tonic. A mixture designed for plants that seem beyond saving. And the ingredients are things most households throw away before breakfast. This is where everything comes together. Not one fertilizer. Not one nutrient. A complete rescue formula. Because most struggling plants are not suffering from a single deficiency. They're suffering from several at once. And that's why so many gardeners keep treating the wrong problem. One plant needs more potassium. Another needs calcium. A third needs nitrogen. This mixture helps cover all three. The results can be dramatic. More flowers. Stronger stems. Faster growth. Healthier fruit. And in some cases, plants that looked beyond recovery begin producing again. The recipe starts with something most people throw away after breakfast. Banana peels. These help support flowering, fruit production, and water movement throughout the plant. Next comes crushed eggshells. A simple ingredient that helps strengthen plant tissue and supports healthy fruit development. And then comes used coffee grounds. One of the easiest ways to provide a steady source of nitrogen for continued growth. Individually, each ingredient helps. Together, they create something much more powerful. A full-spectrum fertilizer designed to support nearly every stage of plant growth. But there is one final ingredient that turns this mixture from good into extraordinary. And it may be the most overlooked kitchen fertilizer of all. This is where many gardeners discover they've been repeating a myth for years. You've probably heard it before. Coffee grounds make soil too acidic. It sounds true. But for used coffee grounds, it mostly isn't. And that changes everything. Because millions of gardeners throw away one of the most useful soil amendments in their kitchen. Used coffee grounds don't dramatically change soil acidity. What they do is often far more valuable. They help improve soil structure. They encourage earthworms. They support beneficial soil life. And they release nutrients gradually instead of all at once. In other words, they keep feeding the garden long after many fertilizers have already disappeared. That's why experienced gardeners see coffee grounds differently. Not as waste. As a resource. But even coffee grounds are only one piece of the puzzle. The next ingredient solves a problem many gardeners don't recognize until it's already hurting their plants. It begins with yellow leaves. Not completely yellow. Yellow between the veins while the veins remain green. A warning sign that the plant is running low on one of the most important nutrients in nature. Magnesium. Because at the center of every green leaf on Earth is a tiny engine that captures sunlight. And magnesium sits right at its core. Without enough of it, the plant begins losing its ability to produce energy. And that's when growth starts slowing down. This next ingredient is where many gardeners see the fastest visual change. Leaves that looked tired and washed out begin turning green again. Growth speeds up. The plant starts producing energy more efficiently. The secret? A simple spoonful of Epsom salt. When a plant is low in magnesium, one of the first warning signs appears in the leaves. The spaces between the veins begin turning yellow while the veins stay green. It's a signal many gardeners overlook. And when magnesium is the missing piece, the recovery can be surprisingly fast. But there's an important catch. Not every yellow leaf means magnesium deficiency. Some plants need nitrogen. Some need iron. Others are suffering from root problems. That's why experienced gardeners don't just treat symptoms. They identify the cause first. Because the right treatment works quickly. The wrong treatment does almost nothing. But the ingredient that makes this entire formula truly different isn't Epsom salt. It's the final addition. Blackstrap molasses. And most gardeners completely misunderstand what it does. The minerals inside are useful. But that's not its real job. Its real job is to feed the billions of beneficial microbes working inside the brew. Think of it as fuel for the workforce. The moment molasses is added, microbial activity explodes. Those microbes begin breaking down the ingredients faster. Releasing nutrients sooner. Making the entire fertilizer more powerful. Without molasses, the process can take weeks. With it, the transformation begins much sooner. And that is the difference between a homemade fertilizer that merely works, and one that feels almost unbelievable. At this point, the fertilizer has become something far more powerful than a single nutrient source. Banana peels, eggshells, coffee grounds, Epsom salt, blackstrap molasses. Together, they create a full-spectrum plant tonic packed with the nutrients struggling plants need most. And one ingredient makes all the difference. Molasses. Without it, the nutrients trickle out slowly. With it, beneficial microbes go to work immediately, turning a weeks-long process into one that can begin in just a few days. For many gardeners, this mixture becomes the go-to-rescue formula, but the final fertilizer on this list is older than all of them. Older than modern gardening. Older than commercial fertilizer. Older than almost every gardening book sitting on a shelf today. For thousands of years, farmers relied on a single source of fertility. And surprisingly, it still works. In some gardens, it works better than anything sold in a bag. It's called manure tea. Old-time farmers had another name for it, the giant tea bag. The idea is simple. Place aged manure inside a porous sack and suspend it in water. Over the next few days, the nutrients slowly move into the liquid, creating a powerful fertilizer that plants can absorb with remarkable speed. The process is simple. The results can be dramatic. Greener leaves. Stronger growth. More flowers. Healthier roots. But here's the detail most gardeners miss. Not all manure is the same. And choosing the wrong type can dramatically reduce the results. The difference between chicken manure, rabbit manure, and cow manure is much larger than most people realize. This final fertilizer has rescued gardens for centuries. And when it's made correctly, the results can appear within days. A tired tomato plant begins flowering again. New growth returns. Leaves regain their color. And the secret isn't complicated. It's aged manure tea. But not all manure performs the same. Chicken manure is the powerhouse. Rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, it can drive explosive growth and help struggling plants return to heavy flowering surprisingly quickly. Cow manure takes a different approach. Less aggressive, but excellent for improving soil health and supporting long-term fertility. And then there's the quiet favorite of experienced gardeners. Rabbit manure. Gentle. Balanced. Safe for young plants. Many gardeners consider it the easiest and most forgiving option. But this is where the biggest mistake happens. And it destroys more gardens than most people realize. Fresh manure. Never use it. Fresh manure contains excessive ammonia and can damage roots in as little as a couple of days. What should be a rescue becomes a disaster. That's why patience matters. The manure must be aged before it ever touches the water. And once the tea is ready, dilution becomes equally important. Too strong, and it can stress the plant. Properly diluted, it becomes one of the safest and most effective fertilizers a gardener can use. There's one final detail old farmers understood long before modern science confirmed it. Timing matters. Apply it during the cool hours of the day. Early morning. Or just before sunset. That's when roots absorb nutrients most efficiently and the soil holds onto them longer. And that's why some gardeners see dramatic improvements while others using the exact same fertilizer see only average results. The secret isn't just what you feed the plant. It's when you feed it. And that's the part most people never realize. The garden was never starving because fertilizer was expensive. It was starving because the nutrients were being thrown away. The onion peels. The rice water. The vegetable scraps. The coffee grounds. The eggshells. Even the manure. What looks like waste is often exactly what the soil has been waiting for. That's why some gardeners spend hundreds of dollars every year chasing healthier plants, while others quietly grow thriving gardens using things most people throw in the trash. The difference isn't money. It's understanding. Because the moment you stop seeing waste and start seeing resources, the entire garden changes. The next time a tomato plant begins to yellow, or a pepper stops producing, or a cucumber vine starts fading, don't assume the plant is finished. Look around your kitchen first. The solution may already be there. Now I'm curious. Which of these 5 fertilizers surprised you the most? And if you've ever brought a dying plant back to life, share the story below. Someone reading your comment might save their own garden because of it. Until next time, keep growing, keep experimenting, and remember, the healthiest gardens aren't always fed by the store. They're fed by the things everyone else overlooks.